Hello and welcome everybody to episode number 11 of the Bootleggers podcast. We call it the BuzzCast. You are joined by our regular contributors today. That's myself, Flames, and Mr. Riot is here. Hello, Mr. Riot.
Good morning, everybody. Happy to be here with you guys.
Yes, it is another.
Yes.
So this is
this first day of American football, huh?
Oh yeah. Oh, American football starts this weekend, does it?
Yep, and it'll probably end in about 3 weeks, but I'm gonna enjoy it while it's here.
Why would it end early? You think they're gonna stop matches again?
We're not really doing any, limiting on these teams, so we'll see. It'll probably be a lot like baseball, but that's a different podcast. We got some great stuff to talk about today, and I did not mean to distract you.
That's good. Well, to be fair, English football starts also this weekend, and I've seen somebody on the forum actually set up a little fantasy draft thing, so maybe some people can get involved in that, and that'd be cool.
I have no idea when soccer ends. I feel like it's constantly going.
Yeah, so it's like the summer months basically. It stops, so it sounds like it's maybe similar to NFL. Usually it's like September to like April, May sort of time. But anyway, so that's American and English football covered. Thanks so much for listening, everybody, and we'll catch you next week.
Lio is screaming right now.
So this is an unscripted podcast, and we've got 4 things to talk about today. The first topic of which we are joined by Vio, who is co-boss of the royal family. Hello, Vio.
Hi.
Hello, thank you for joining us. It's going to be lovely to talk to you in a second. And we're also joined by a new contributor to the BuzzCast, Cmurder, who is underboss of the Gambino family. Hello, Mr. Cmurder.
Hey, man.
Hey, how's it going? You good?
Oh, good, bro.
Good. I'm glad to hear it.
Cmurder just got back from seeing Hot Dog Cart Guy, it sounds like.
Ketchup or mustard or both?
Oh, both, man. Both.
That's good. So the first segment we're going to talk about today is just that general crew scoring leaderboard update that we like to do. It's a nice way to frame the game, I guess. So one of the reasons that we thought you might be a nice guest for a Cmurder is that we spoke last week to Chop, who's the boss of the Gambino family, and
is he?
I believe so, or he currently is according to statistics. He might be chopped.
He thinks he is.
So the sort of loose story there is that it's a fairly new crew who are rising up the ranks, and last week he told us that the goal for that crew was to get into the top 10. I'm looking at the statistics right now, which is the current period, which is period 13, and you are currently in 7th.
Yeah, we've done pretty well this period, man. We've smashed it so far.
Okay.
It's a lot easier when you get hold of the candy cane dynamites in the forums, you know. That helps out a lot. So, yeah,
good. How do you personally feel about the crew scoring and the revenue stuff? Do you enjoy playing this way? Do you think it's a nice way to do the game?
I don't mind it. I mean, I've been away from Bootleggers since 2008. This is my first sort of run back on it, so it's a lot's changed for me. But it's nice to do something different. Put it that way. Okay. There is a few things I probably would say that need adding in it. I mean, for crew rev, hit list kills and that. Why is that not considered revenue? I don't really understand why it's not. Do you know what I mean? But
yeah, that was talked about quite a lot actually, Riot, wasn't it? And it was one of the things that we spoke about with Kyle quite a lot when this was actually proposed by Kyle. There was a reason where, on balance, we thought that kills maybe shouldn't be included right now.
Because you could just hit list your buddy have your buddy searched and then throw him on the hit list once the search is found and kill him and collect that revenue. I think it would be something that would be.
Is there not a way you could sort of make it like crewmates can't hit list each other, and do you know what I mean?
But you could also just set up a random, a random revive outside of the crew as a scum account, and then you just set it up like that. I think Kyle's stance, and I've said this a few times, on kills, is that there should be more used to, like, the person you're killing, you're limiting them because you can make so much money at the higher ranks. So if you kill somebody, you're basically creating opportunity costs where they could have been making all this money as a Don, and now they're stuck starting back over from a scum. So if you were to shoot everybody in a crew ahead of you, they have to play catch up to get back to where they were, and they're going to make significantly less money.
That's definitely the change. So I think you're right. I think kills need to have I think half right. So between what you guys have just said, I think that maybe if kills aren't exactly scored, because I think it's so open to like abuse. So the scenario is that I run crew A, Riot runs crew B, and Riot and I say to each other, we're basically just going to get a load of our members to shoot each other and hit list each other for points. And I think it's just so easy. I mean, I think HaHa's listening on live right now, and I think that was actually something that he called out when we were doing the feedback group around this, and I think that's why kills didn't end up getting added to the revenue scoring.
I would like to see. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, but there is a big but there, that I think that the value in killing, as Riot said, is it's meant to suppress your enemies on the other crews around you. So right now you're in 7th. You're just on the heels of Cartel to Sinaloa.
Yeah.
Theoretically, the idea of crew scoring is that you whack them. You whack them hard. You whack them all, and you whack them repeatedly. Goodbye, Cartel. But the problem with clearly there is a problem with bootleggers with its current functionality, is that you are not going to do that. Why would has that crossed your mind? Would you, not specifically that they're your enemy, but would you consider shooting another crew to get ahead of them?
I mean, it's a friendly competition in my eyes. I mean, you know, there's no need to go to war with people, because it's just a waste of resources or whatever. You know, if we get attacked, then that's a story. But
yeah, and that's exactly the point that previous guests have said throughout this section that we've been running, is that it's going to cost you more to shoot a crew than its value. So, you know, the different prizes at the end of a round, the idea is that maybe crew 2 would shoot crew 1 so that they can get the huge gold difference between 2nd place and 1st place.
Yeah.
And one of the points that HaHa made several times is that just shooting in this period is going to suppress you for maybe the next 2 or 3 periods, because you end up getting stuck in this war for 2-3 periods. So it's just not worth it. So right, what do we do about that? How do we
Everybody said, you know, oh, well, just make, you know, kills count for revenue or something like that. But I think if you did that, you're still not going to see that lead to crew on crew shooting, for the same reason you don't see, you know, a lot of crew on crew shooting happening right now. I think if you made kills a part of the revenue, what you're going to see is a lot of like crew list accounts, or maybe you know, smaller crews just getting lit up for basically target practice to generate some revenue. You know, so I think one of the things you got to look at too is, you know, is it too, you know, basically if it takes you so long to get back, like, you know, should we kind of look at how long it takes to bounce back, like during a crew war, you know, and stuff like that. I also think, you know, some of the stuff that he has coming up, you know, there's been talk about like territory wars and like controlling stuff. And a lot of people said, you know, oh, when you only had like, you know, a few crew spots, then people had to fight each other for them, and it kind of led to more shootings, where now you have unlimited crew spots, so there's really no fighting over those. You know, I remember though, you know, before unlimited crew spots, there was like really 3 or 4 crews, and they just owned all the crew spots. You know, so there might be a little war over a spot here and there, but I think I don't know, Joe, getting some new like properties, some new things for people to fight over could be kind of interesting.
I think so. There's got to be something, hasn't there? There's got to be we clearly don't have anything that is prompting any sort of like skirmish or battles or wars, and you know the fact that it can be so costly is obviously putting people off. So really, there's only 2 ways to motivate crews to fight each other. Really,
say the truth, Blame. Sorry to cut you off. But
go for it.
The grinding of the bullets nowadays. I mean, back in my day when I used to play, you could buy like 100,000 bullets in one go if you had the money there. Like there was no this. I'll buy 100 bullets. Blah blah blah.
We bought 100 at a time.
Yeah, like it was none of that. You know, And I also remember back in the day we had things called establishments where like you could hide out in them. Like I think it was like you could hide your crew members in there or something. It's a long time ago, but
there were safe houses basically. Yeah.
Yeah, there was something along them lines. I don't know whether that's something you consider back. I mean, it wasn't a big part of the game, but it was just, something different. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think yeah, go right.
I was just gonna say one of the things, and I don't know how much of it is going to get progressed, but one of the things that we've been chatting with Kyle about is kind of a way to basically, if you wipe out everybody that was boss plus in a crew, like when you attack them, when you finally whack out like the capo, who'd be one of the last people to get hit, the crew doesn't drop from the stats, but essentially gets dropped, and you would get like a percentage of their crew bank, which I think if you put that percentage of the crew bank in there, it could be like the money in there into your revenue. It could be something to get people to attack the like some other crews that they think might have a decent amount in the bank, to get a good chunk from that. It'd also have to be something that was looked into to prevent you and I create a little dummy crew and throw 100 million in the bank and then let Strike Back come and whack us and take a percentage of our money as like a setup.
Okay, let's go to Vio. So Vio, you are co-boss of the royal family. You're currently sitting in 5th position, so doing fairly well. TRF have always been pretty awesome at doing crew revenue. How's period 13 going for you?
Well, we had really good intentions. I think the first day of the period we were in 1st or 2nd, and then we got shot by 2 underground gangs.
No, who?
The Michelsons and another bunch of players. I don't know.
Okay.
So we went into the period like super prepared, and like on day 2, I think we lost half our Eldons, and now I think we maybe have 1.
Okay.
So I think for the ranks we have, we're doing really well. Obviously, like boost running is almost pointless. But we do what we can, and we're trying to like not drop too far down the list.
Okay.
But I think if you look at who surrounds us and their ranks, I think we're doing really well.
Yeah, I was just looking. So you've got Beyond Bars, and you are very close to 4th place. So you're pretty you're still doing pretty well in terms of top 5. But Beyond Bars have just come off a huge win in period 12. So my thinking is here that this is probably their time to take it easy, and they're still comfortably in the top 5. So they're obviously doing something really well.
Yeah, but I think if you look at their ranks, like they have, as far as I can see, no one under Ardom, and I think most of them, except from like 2 or 3, are Eldom. And the revenue is such a big part of boost runs are such a big part of the revenue. So that's
that capacity is
impossible
huge, isn't it?
to. Sure. I can carry 105, and an Eldom can carry 450.
Yeah.
So,
it's a big difference, isn't it? Axtes, who have sort of come back over the last few periods, they're on top with a potentially record-breaking revenue score.
Mm-hmm.
This is quite impressive, no?
Yeah, they're doing really well.
Yeah, super impressive. That's a good score. So for anyone that's going to watch this later, they're currently on 8.6 billion. And number 2, the company, are currently on 3.7. So there is just a huge, huge difference. It's almost like Axtes at 1 are combined scores of 2, 3, and 4 altogether. So it's just a huge lead. That's pretty impressive. Right? That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think so. But I also think, or at least my feeling for this period, is that everyone is taking it a bit more easy. I feel like it's been more competitive the former rounds. So I don't know if that's a sign of people are like a bit fed up with the revenue, or if it's just one of those rounds where it's not that competitive.
Yeah. So Riot, there is a there's a game show in America, right? What does Alex Trebek do?
Jeopardy.
Jeopardy. So is this the thing where it's so Vio's just said something about that? Everyone's getting a bit fed up with revenue. So if I said which word beginning with R could be a response to everybody getting fed up with the current round, is there a word that you would maybe use?
Riot.
Well, I was thinking more reset, which sort of comes on to our second segment.
You think it's what Boggy and I talked about yesterday? People are kind of waiting to see if we have that one final glory round where everybody can just unload all of their resources into it and it's complete madness.
Yeah, what I was thinking that final period, everyone's going to be so low scoring because everyone's going to kill each other. It's like, people are going to be like the amount of help desk tickets, which is like, why can a scum only carry 5?
And then we should just have Kyle lie and make a post sorry guys, something came up. The reset's been postponed for 3 months.
6 months. Yeah. So for everybody listening, we have just transitioned into segment 2, which is we said that we wanted to discuss just first responses to the announcement that we recently made in last week's BuzzCast, as well as posting something on the forum in the reset topic, which is that it's very early days and we don't have any timeline yet, but we have said that Kyle's announcement is that there'll be a reset in the near future. His words, not ours. So we just thought we would get some probably just a little bit of quick feedback and people's responses to that. We've asked a couple of people to come and be guests for us. A regular contributor to the Buzz is Boggy, who's boss of the company. We've also got Cliffy, who's in Resistance. Hello, Boggy.
Afternoon, you okay?
Yeah, very well, buddy. How are you?
Yeah, not bad, thank you.
Good. Glad to have you back again. Thank you for always being so available to join us here. It's really nice to hear from you.
No problem, mate.
So there was a topic in the game forum about it's time to reset bootleggers. It was roughly 60% in agreement and 40% not. If you were to, as simple as you can, say whether you would be thumbs up or thumbs down for a reset in the near future, which one would you be?
I think I made it clear in that topic. I'm thumbs down.
Your thumbs down.
Yeah.
So most people who are in the thumbs down camp are probably just because they want to see more development before the reset. Is that why you're a thumbs down?
I've seen the community ask for resets numbers of times for probably the same reason, that the game feels a bit stale. And the reason this time, I think you mentioned revenue. Do I think that resetting the game will fix that? No, because 1, 2, 3 periods later, which is 2 months time or something like that, it'd be the same thing. People are needing to be taking a break, and I just think there's more things that need to be fixed before the game is in a position where it should be reset, because I do think that you will start to see more players leave. Who was it on that was on earlier? Cmurder's obviously rejoined the game, so that's great to see. But I'm pragmatical. I can understand why people are asking for it, because if we have had new players that have joined the game, and I think Vio mentioned Beyond Bars all sat on Eldon, and if you're a boss account coming into a game trying to make it up, and all these guys have got an advantage on you, maybe a reset is a fair thing. But when I was reading through the topic personally, and looking at the reason that people want it, and then I look at the mechanics of the game as a player that's played for some time now, I don't see the benefit in it for resetting it while the game the way it is. And
I think you're right. I'm sort of it's quite a difficult question to. I was probably a bit harsh to come it down to just yes or no. I think everybody needs to be realistic. Whereas the way that it's been presented is that there are still things we need to do. But Kyle's reason for doing a reset is because he knows it's so stale and he wants people to have fun. So I think that really it's not a question of do you want a reset or not at this moment. It's do you want 2 resets, 1 reset, and then after however long of development, once that list is done, then probably another one, because that's probably the only fair way to do it. So I guess it's just go right.
I was gonna say, we've also kind of been internally developing a list of kind of things we want to see get done before a reset takes place. And one of those is kind of something I'm really deeply invested in right now is looking at where money comes into the game and where money comes out and how we can kind of lower that ratio so that there's less inflation throughout the game as the period progresses. It's definitely something we want to tackle before a reset. And just looking at like a few other things that we changed and kind of based on the way that Kyle kind of told us about this, he kind of makes it sound like he wants to, have a reset and then, after another significant feature is overhauled, have a reset after that, instead of just doing all of the fixes and then one major reset, kind of doing a few resets throughout the process. So, we'll see where that goes.
Mm-hmm. Also, at this point, might be quite nice to get somebody else's spin on this. Mr. Cliffy, who is in Resistance crew spot right now. Hey, Cliffy, how's it going?
Hi, I'm doing just fine, thank you.
Wonderful. Glad to have you on our BuzzCast here. Thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, nice to be here.
Cool. So I'm going to start off with just asking you the same question that I asked Boggy, which is if it was as simple as thumbs up or thumbs down to start with on a reset in the near future, where are you at right now?
I would say no, actually. I don't see the
two
point.
no's.
I really don't see the point in resetting the game right now.
Okay. Similar reasons to what Boggy said?
Yeah, more or less, because I've been through quite a few resets over the years, and I don't see the point in resetting the game just to reset it. There has to be a reason for it.
Yeah, okay. I suppose that, but I guess, are you similar to Boggy that you can see why some people would ask for it as well?
Yeah, because it's been a really long round, this one. I came back in February. I don't know how long it's been before that, but
up on 2 years.
Yeah,
up on 2 years.
2 years in December.
So of course, there are some people with a lot of resources they have stacked over a long period of time, of course. And for a new player, it could be hard to come back into that because they don't have the same possibility to gain the money quickly. And when we look at the gold prices, they are, crazy.
Yeah, which is, I think that is what Riot was just alluding to there. There's a couple of things. So obviously we have this big long development list that we're working on at the moment, which is since bringing Alex on board, it's one of the things that we wanted to get development more structured, and basically we've started calling out items that are must do prior to reset, and one of the ones that Riot has been a big advocate for is getting Alex to create some sort of economy tool. So it's basically just as a way for us to, because we keep talking about that features need to be balanced, but it's really difficult for us to know exactly how something is going to play out. So essentially the tool that Riot and Alex are looking at together is a way to actually look at the way that money comes in and how often and how much and then see it coming out of the game as well, because I think that's part of the problem with the late to end game. That's part of the reason that it goes stale, is that you get to this point whereby everything's completely out of balance. You just have the value of assignments compared to the price of a Duesenberg. They shouldn't be that far out, and that's part of the reason why the further you go into a round, the game is just not set up to handle it well.
Yeah, I agree with that. But like I said, it's not a point just resetting just to reset. We have to have things fixed before we do that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think a reset doesn't fit. A reset is not designed at this point. Is not designed to fix anything, other than we know that Bootleggers in its current state is more enjoyable earlier in a round than later in a round. So the only reason to consider doing one right now is because I guess it's felt that the majority of people would have a nicer time playing the game if it was earlier in a round than later in a round. That's probably the only way. We know that actually doing a reset doesn't cure any problems. The only way to go right.
I like to think we'll get some changes in between rounds if there is a reset. I also think that it, obviously as, the money in the economy is growing exponentially. The more money that you have in the game, the more money the game is going to create that day. So I think resetting it and starting, that number back to zero will kind of, even if we didn't make any economical changes, which I kind of hope we do before a reset, but even if we didn't, I think starting back at zero kind of resets the inflation. And so, it could take another year or so to get back to where we're at right now. So I think by then, there would be significant changes that would prompt another reset. So I think at bare minimum, a reset right now would be kind of a Band-Aid until a serious
Can I disagree with you on that, right?
What's up?
Can I just disagree with you on that? Because from
this would be the first time you've ever disagreed with me, so let me brace myself. Go ahead.
So I was thinking back to the last podcast that we were on together, and you were talking about some of the things that you're looking to implement. I think the main issue that you've got with economy and inflation is if you look at some of the, and I will, I'll give kudos where it's due, some of the great things that have been brought in, such as the new crime feature and the things that you can get from crimes. If we bribe OC, use a candy, use the sweet car or whatever they're called, the sweet doozy, whatever, you're looking between 4 people sharing out 250 million. Now, okay, that's not going to happen day one of a brand new round, but what happens to that money then? What has Bootleggers players got to be able to do with that money? Well, you've got your gamblers, or you've got your people that will go and buy gold, or you've got your people that might initially buy some weapons or whatever it may be. And for me, there isn't that opportunity to spend the money that you make. The only option that you've got is gamble or gold, or put it into a crew bank, and then a crew bank sat there with however many billions of pounds. So I think the problem is that there's been too much of an influx of addition and not enough to take things out. So I think the only thing for me that's being brought in is bodyguards. Whereas I think you mentioned in the last broadcast, sort of like properties that players can invest in.
Yeah.
That intrigued me. I think that is something that would be interesting to see along some other items. But resetting to taking it just to zero, you're going to be in that same position regardless of whether gold's going to be 200k or gold's going to be 100k. Because if you think back to before the crime feature came in, Candy Dynamite, all that other nice shiny things that we got given, gold was still at 100k. Now, for the entire time I played BL, I've never seen it that high. I've never seen it as high as it is now. But even back when the flat rate was 100k per gold, I've never seen it like that and consistently like that.
It's difficult to compare to before the revenue prizes, though, because we literally just pump in thousands of free gold every few weeks. Mm-hmm. So it is difficult to compare with gold price.
To be honest, one of the things I've been kind of looking into is you look at like what a lot of other like online games, not just text-based games, but other games, even like World of Warcraft and stuff like that. One of the ways that they maintain their economy is through like auction houses and stuff like that. And when players trade items or trade goods, there's that 10% fee that's charged to the seller. When they get the money, if you sell something for 200,000, you're going to get 180,000. And every time that item's sold, 10% of its value is kind of dropped out of the game. Whereas Bootleggers does outside of gold doesn't really have anything for that because most transactions are using gold, right? So if you want to buy cars, you're using gold. If you want to buy a casino, you're using gold. So like Bootleggers doesn't really have a lot of ways for cash to come outside the game. I think some people may disagree, but I think being able to list items on an auction house sort of could be something that would help with that. So that's definitely, I think you hit the nail on the head. Something that I've looked at is that we need to lower that gap between money coming in and money going out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the economy hasn't got balanced right now, which is one of, but not the only factor to making Bootleggers Endgame pretty repetitive and not so fun at all, which is something Carl's completely aware of, by the way. So, like I said, the reset doesn't fix the structural problems. He knows that if you do a reset right now and change nothing, then in 12, 14, 16 months, we're going to be exactly where we are today. So I think that it's a
I hope we're not still in 2020 in 16 months.
Yeah, this year does feel long. But I think that it's a two-pronged approach. It's reset the game so that at least people today are having a nicer experience, because bootleggers at the start of a early round game is actually really fun. I feel like it is anyway. And then it's developments through that time, so that by the time that you get to the end of that 12 whatever months, I'm just putting random numbers in random dates, but at the point that you've done enough development, you would reset, and then you would have a game that from that point onwards, you know that your end game is going to be more enjoyable. So, Mr. Cliffy, just coming back to you one last time. Let's say that when we do reset in the near future, would you would you have a plan for what you would do at the start of a next round? I guess it would be some fun, right?
Retire.
Yeah, new rounds are always fun. Of course, I don't think I want to share everything on air, but
yeah.
The start of the round have always been my favorite, actually, because that's when you grind to be the first one to come a high rank, to gain properties and stuff like that. And so I'm looking forward to a reset when it happens.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, I think there'll be pros and cons with it, really. But so from a wider like strategic point, I think a reset in itself isn't like. I think it'll be enjoyable for individual players. I think whether you agree with it or not, I think you'll still have a good time doing it, and probably more fun than you're having today. Let's put it that way. I think I'm pretty confident of that. More fun, I think, is definitely true. Which I think is the main reason.
I don't need a reset for that. You know that.
It's always party time in Boggy's time. Wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing your comments. I just want to go to just Riot for one last, do you have any other comments, Mr. Riot, about the announcement of Reset?
No, I think next weekend I'd like to hold another feedback session to kind of talk about some stuff that people would like to see before this reset, and to discuss the items that we're going to discuss a little bit.
Okay, is that the thing that you previously did on Zoom, where you just had some drinks and it was like happy hour?
That was a happy hour. We had the feedback before that.
Oh, I
the feedback after the happy hour just wouldn't make sense. But I'm drinking beer the whole time, and you can too. But yeah,
I'll have pina colada, to be fair. But thank you for offering. So that potentially for anyone out there listening, the weekend of the 19th and 20th sounds like Riot. There'll be a lot of you thinking. Concerned about specific points about how reset might impact you or your account or whatever. So Riot will announce when he's going to host that session. Feel free to drop along, and you can either voice or type your opinions and questions to him. Wonderful. So we're actually going to move on to our next segment now. So the third segment was around just a quick discussion really with Alex. I did mention we'd go into slightly more detail about Alex's new role and what he's working on. This bit you're going to have to bear with us, because this bit is the only part of the BuzzCast where I think is likely to need more structure. Not specifically scripting, but we probably need to at least have the tickets that we're going to talk about. So Alex's new role is working closely with us to identify and put in place bug fixes, player suggestions, things that are come out from help desk tickets. He does a lot of stuff behind the scenes on things like mod tools and helping HDOs. So I thought that we would start to get a regular segment in the BuzzCast where we spoke about the things that he's been working on this week and maybe next week, because I think it's obvious that communication is obviously always more communication than we've had is always needed. We try and do it. The BuzzCast itself hopefully helps a little bit, but I think a section within this BuzzCast could really help. Mr. Alex, you may know him as Cybae. I call him Alex. Sorry. How are you?
I'm doing all right, minus possibly getting sick. How are you?
Yeah, I'm okay. We'll try and keep this a little bit snappy since you're not feeling too good today. I'm very well, thank you so much. So this little section that we're about to do here, I mentioned last week that we're using something called Jira, which is the way of turning individual problems, suggestions, developments into essentially like tickets. You probably use that professionally as well. It's it's a tool that a lot of professional companies use. It's quite cool that we're moving some BL development onto it.
Yeah, I use Jira quite a lot at work, and I used to hate it actually, being brand new to the commercial world. But after using it for a couple months, sadly enough, now I rely on it. It really does kind of put things in perspective for you, and obviously we use it on a bit more of a commercial level at work in order to track time spent on tasks and track epics and all of that. So, yeah.
Cool. That sounds good. So basically, the way that we've currently got this set up is we have a number of like statuses that the tickets are in. So the ticket might be this page has got a problem, or this is a suggestion that's come out of the suggestions box. Each one of those things would be classed as a ticket. We have, and then what we do is we put a status on that ticket so we know when we're going to do it, and also there's a priority. So that's sort of decided by us as a team to work out how many people it's impacting. So basically, one of the statuses we've got backlog. Then what Alex does is based on its priority, he brings it forward to a status called selected for development. When he starts working on it, he puts it in progress. And then when he's done with it, he puts it essentially like pending or waiting. And it's for us as a team to go and review it to make sure it's all done. And at that point, this is where all of the background work that Kyle and Alex have been working on, which is that once it's sort of passed our testing internally, it will just get moved up to for players to be able to see it. So it's quite a sweet way of doing development, but it also allows for structure to talk about it in a show like this, because we can talk about the things that are at those statuses, so we can give you some really great visibility on the stuff that Alex is working on. I think, funnily enough, actually, Alex, myself, and Riot all are probably quite familiar with this sort of thing in our professional lives, so it's felt quite comfortable so far, hasn't it, Riot?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's really nice too to see, we get little notifications when something we submit has been accepted, when it's been fixed, when it's been pushed over to Kyle for like approval. So it's actually nice to be able to track those instead of constantly going, hey, how about those hit list messages?
Yeah, it's so true.
I wish we could tag something as like low hanging fruit. Like this would probably be a really easy fix that you could do half awake.
Yeah.
Well, I'd be able to focus on a lot more stuff, but unfortunately, like this last week's been mostly investigations, trying to look into all these little things that people complain about, and it's not the easiest thing, such as these crimes. Everyone seems to swear that you're failing crimes much more than you should, and I've been looking into this for several days now, and it's just something that's not apparent in the code. So a lot of this week has been investigations to try to get some of these more important things through, while just kind of slipping some small things through, really. So
it's interesting. Oh, sorry, go on, right?
I was just say real quick, mad props to Alex here, because he has been an absolute trooper since coming on board as a dev. We just constantly hit him up all the time. Hey, Alex, look at ticket 6381 and see why, this person says that they're not getting revenue from their fruit cart, and like just all this stuff. And he's just constantly, responding, doing all this stuff. I imagine that you had to quit your regular job because we bother you so much for things.
Maybe next week.
Yeah,
that or you gave up sleep. I don't know.
He's in a final disciplinary meeting next week for not turning up. So that's cool. So it's actually a nice insight. So I mean, this is I suppose this is just meant to be a bit of transparency for everybody listening. It's that we've got all of these tickets, and actually something as simple as some people in the forums mentioning that my 90% Don Plus crimes isn't 90% has pretty much taken out our entire developer for a week. So just to when people have some expectations around how quickly things can get done, some things like that actually take time, and this is not meant to be sort of a defensive statement. It's just to purely like give out there some some realistic timescales for things. Even investigations like this can take some time. And I know that there are quite a few people that work in sort of like programming or anything like that in their professional lives that also play BL, so they'll probably understand. But so I thought it would be nice. Again, like I said, we'll probably have to get some more structure around this, but I'm just going to read through a couple of the things that are in our backlog, a couple of the tickets that we've got there. Some of these things here. So, in fact, do you know what? I'm going to go from the... Hold on. Yeah, so I'm going to actually go onto the... In fact, you know what I'm going to do, Alex? I'm going to go onto the issues list, and I'm going to look at any that are the higher priority tickets, and we'll just take a few of those just as an example. The first one actually we've got as a high priority is ticket number 63, and it's actually a player suggestion that marketplace listings should be on a timer. It's an interesting one.
I've already kind of dreamt up an approach for that, where I'm probably going to make it so that listings only last for about 72 hours, and then they're delisted. But yeah,
it's an interesting one. So if I go into the ticket, actually, it's been it also is linked ticket number 39, and ticket number 39 is to only show so many rows in the marketplace, because I don't want to see the row that shows me that there's a 1 gold piece available for $1 billion. So we've sort of linked those two things together, which is a change to the marketplace display, so that you can both only show me the cheapest gold available, because no one's ever going to scroll right the way to the bottom, and also that those ones that are always going to get stuck at the bottom are going to leave after a few hours. So I think that's probably quite a sensible, tidy up thing to do on the marketplace page.
I guess one thing that I could kind of do to make people possibly dream up some opinions on possible changes is that the reason I have not fully picked up those features yet is because there are some other tickets in the backlog. That, for instance, ticket number 33, which is to be able to place a buy order for gold. So you can say, hey, I want to buy 100 gold at 150k, and somebody can choose to fulfill that buy order instead of just always constantly buying. So there's also a couple other things, like possibly moving into more of a marketplace system with things like witness statements being able to be sold publicly on a marketplace. So you'll be able to go there and see this witness statement is being listed either, anonymously or not, and you can buy it from that person without really having to make a forum post saying, did anybody witness this, or without trying to message around and try to find things. So if somebody does want to sell that anonymously, then kind of create a system for that. I mean, these are kind of pipe dreams at the moment.
It uses cash, so it takes cash out of the economy.
Yeah, exactly.
Full circle. There it is.
Yeah. So in terms of the way that this is presented, because this little section is going to be a work in progress, so I really urge anybody that's out there listening to, if you have any ideas about the way that this is presented back to you, to just drop some ideas. Maybe when we post the in the BuzzCast topic, maybe in the forum, if you have some ideas about this specifically, how you'd like to see this be presented back to you, then drop some ideas there. I think that maybe we'll just leave it at that for now, so we get some suggestions. But in terms of the way that some of these tickets are actually going to go through, I think it was probably a correct criticism to say that when we're designing stuff like this, in the past there was no player input, which I think is important, especially if the initial suggestion comes from players. That's the idea of what we previously called the feedback group, which I actually cancelled completely a few months ago. And now that we've got Alex here, I think it makes a lot more sense to fire that back up. So we have actually started something called refinement group. And the idea would be that when we're talking through things like this with the marketplace changes and the way that it could actually be implemented, is that refinement group would be shown the tickets that we're working on. We would just get advice from them. Doesn't mean we're going to take their advice. They might ask for something that's almost impossible to code, but it just gives us a steer, and it's from your peers who are essentially saying you need to also consider this and this and this. So typically it's worked really well in the past. So that is one of the tickets. I guess we're probably running out a little bit of time.
Vio's sending us death threats.
Yes. I feel like the
4 minutes, mate.
So maybe we'll just run straight onto our. For next week, we'll do something better with this segment. And if you have, like I say, if you have suggestions about how we present it, then that's cool too. We could bring something up on the screen, maybe, Alex, so people can see the ticket we're looking at, or at least a summary.
We should do the same segment with like ban appeals as well. Or just bring them up and discuss them. Public ban appeals. So we're heading on. These four people all live in the same house.
Yeah, that's cool. So on to our last segment. Just gonna be nice and quick one. I mentioned to you last week that Carl has given us a 6-page document with, on top of the other stuff that's already in the public eye, in terms of things like the family feature update. He also said some other updates that he is looking to bring in. There were 6. We're going to talk about 2 today in a slightly more detail. The first one of which is traveling. So, Mr. Riot, I believe you also have the document in front of you.
Yes.
I'm going to read out a couple of the key points that he's put in this document. So just to paraphrase him a little bit, he said that traveling will become a combination of by train and by car. And all booze is intended to be produced how hooch is currently done, which is in a still. So each travel wouldn't necessarily mean a booze run if your booze hadn't been produced in your still, which is quite interesting.
Yeah.
They will also
very traditional.
Yeah, very traditional. So basically, you're going to brew your own booze either in your moonshine still, or maybe you're going to have some sort of personal. Well, essentially, you're building up your own personal booze empire, whereby you can begin to produce all different types of alcohol. He also says on the traveling point that there will be a cool down. He's called it travel fatigue after traveling. So basically, there's just a cool down on traveling, which there sort of is now, which is the use of the train station. What he's saying is that there'll be 2 key differences between traveling by car and by train. So if you choose to travel by train, it's much faster because it doesn't have a cool down on it.
But also, train.
You can zip around by train, which is probably quite correct at the time, because I don't think cars were super reliable back then. But also, you can't carry booze if you just choose to travel by train. This is an interesting one.
Well, I think it's, from kind of what I'm reading here, and it's really just kind of an outline. It sounds like, if you want to travel by train, if you're like, ooh, I want to be in that bus party, and then the bus party ends, you're like, ooh, I want to go gamble in that casino. But if you actually want to do something that's going to make money, like a booze run, you're going to get some travel fatigue. And I think it's going to be based off of like the farther you travel, the longer you're going to have to wait before you can travel it.
Yeah.
Also, during the travel, there's going to be, some bamboozles along the way. There could be hot cops. There could be hijackers. So it sounds like you kind of let people, you don't have to wait so long to travel state to state for anything. But if you want to do a booze run, it would be some limitations. So that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, that does sound cool, actually. I like that. So basically, the summary of the change that he's looking to bring in is that you'll use your cars to travel around on a slower cooldown, but you'll able to carry your own booze produced by you in your car with you. If you travel by train, it's much faster, and there's not as much of a cooldown. But you can't carry any booze with you. But it's much more reliable. So traveling by train is for sort of tactical changes in your location, whereby traveling by car is really used as sort of like a revenue generation. You're traveling by car because you're transporting something, which is the booze that you've made. That's quite a cool change. And I believe Riot has just dropped out this call. He may be back in a second. So until then, I'm going to ask Vio if you're. Oh, Riot, you are here. You're back. Hooray!
Yes.
So it's quite a cool change.
Cybae trying to disconnect me again.
Sabotage.
Well, I was just mentioning, too. It sounds like kind of what the other point we're going to discuss with this feedback is the car feature, which actually looks really cool. It sounds like you'll more like equip a car that you'll be using that you want to use for these booze runs. Different types of cars will be able to hold different amounts of booze. Maybe you get like a little minivan to take everyone and use the HOV lane. But, you know, they can get damaged in organized crimes. And if you get attacked, you might have to repair them. So that sounds pretty cool as well.
Yeah, I really like the change to cars overall. Sounds like one of the biggest ones in this document, and I think it's one that actually tried to float in Round X. So it's using some of that base, but basically the idea is that cars become way more personal. And for me, this is a massive point because I just hate the way that the revenue relies so much on cars, thousands of cars. For me, it just doesn't feel realistic. So to be able to have a smaller subset of cars whereby you have like maybe a few of each type that you would keep to do certain things. So you would choose to keep your. So one of the things that Carl's put here is that potentially a police car, if you were to equip the police car and say that that's the car that you're currently driving, it would grant you access to missions or special missions which are only available because there's a police uniform in it, and you could get access to do that mission. Whereas
St. Valentine's Day Massacre, where they dressed up as police officers.
Yes, that was a cool mission. That was a super cool mission. So your car carries booze, and you carry items within your car, which is quite cool. So you can go on a bit of a. You might be able to have an item that buffs your booze capacity, for example. Also, obviously, cars will still be used during an OC, but this is now your personal car. Remember, equipped to car. So the car might not be used up in the OC anymore. It might get damaged. Maybe it's getting shot as you're coming away from the bank. But the idea is
could get destroyed.
Could get destroyed. Yeah, he does say that, doesn't he? Could get destroyed. But the idea is that cars become way more personal. So you use this Duesenberg for your OCs, and it might get damaged whilst you're taking it on an OC run, but that's your car. Some of the other thing, and this is maybe the biggest change, which is around the fact that cars that are not kept in a garage anymore, so if it exceeds your garage capacity or you just don't put it in there anyway, is that they're in inverted commas on the street. So if you don't have your cars in a garage, what that means is one of the GTA options, and remember GTA is getting overhauled regardless, I think is going to be the next big change that you have. So similar to the way Crimes was overhauled, GTAs will be overhauled fairly soon. And one of those options will be steal from the street. And what on the street means is that you're going to steal it from players. So if you've got a cool car that you've not equipped and it's not in your garage, then all of those cars are going to be transferring between other players now. So you've got the steal from a crew option at the moment, but the likelihood is it will supersede that, and it will be slightly more anonymous because you've essentially just abandoned your car on the side of the street because it's not in your garage, and therefore it's acceptable for being stolen from another player, which is a big change. I like that one.
Yeah, I definitely think, I've heard some kind of mixed feedback on it, people unsure how it's going to go. But I think the idea is that you're going to have, like specialty cars, ones that you want to keep around for your booze runs or your OCs, or maybe to sell, to another player for a high value because it's so, souped up. And then you're going to have, the other cars that are really just good for selling for cash or, melting for bullets or whatever. So whenever somebody steals a car, there's a chance that the game will just generate a new car to steal, but there's a better chance that it'll just steal it from somebody who has the car lying around. And I think the whole concept is you do something with your cars once you steal them, instead of just kind of hoarding all them and turning into this mafia used car salesman, hey, I'm gonna make you an offer you can't refuse on this 943 Duesenberg. You're gonna love it.
Yeah. So I guess the change that everyone's expecting is the one that sounds quite common sense to me, which is the fact that the different cars will have different capabilities essentially. So
we saw that in the round that we don't speak of.
Yeah, the Voldemort round. Yeah, it's true. Yeah. So essentially, the way that you're probably going to end up playing is that the Duesenbergs, you probably have one of those, which is your personal car that you use for OCs. But then, if you're going to go and do some booze runs, you might jump in another car, which you have to equip, and you'll choose that one over the Duesenberg because of its higher capacity for booze in the back. The Duesenberg's better for the bank because it's quicker. Another car is better for booze because it carries more. And another car is maybe better for another reason. Maybe it's like your day-to-day vehicle to travel around.
It also sounds like cars, like we'll get into another episode. We'll talk about kind of the home base that he's looking to build. But it sounds like your items are going to be stored there. And so when you leave, certain cars have different amounts of items that you can equip to take with you. So maybe if you're going to do a murder, you might want to take items with you. But it sounds like if you get killed too, the items that are equipped that are with you in the car could be lost, but the items that are back home, safe in your base, would stay. So that's another interesting aspect if we get some murder vehicles.
Yeah, true.
More items.
True. He did actually say there's a potential new way to whack people as well, which is that you could plant explosives in other people's car. So the next time they attempt to use them, if that's the car that's equipped, then when they went to go and do an OC or a booze run with that car, it explodes, which is very, very fucking The Godfather, isn't it? I mean, that is basically that is a cool thing.
It would be really funny if it killed everybody in the OC.
Could you imagine?
It would obviously have to be like calculated, so you just couldn't do it with ease.
That is the most. I mean, if you're talking about like iconic mafia, like movies, though. I mean, that's always one of the such iconic sequences, isn't it? Which is that they used to blow up cars, and the fact that we can potentially have that in BL is a pretty cool addition.
I just love like the the crew infighting that would happen. It's like, I just did an OC with Boggy and I died. Why didn't you tell me you put explosives in his car? Oh, I didn't know you were going to do it.
Yeah, could you imagine trying to keep it on the hush-hush, trying to bomb Boggy, and then you get blown up and blow up your crew members. Yeah, could happen. So next week, on next week's episode, we're going to talk about the next two things on the list, but also have some place to put feedback on these two things. But it's the residences, it's where I live, and also PIs, private investigators, cars looking to overhaul those. That's probably it for today. We tried to make this episode slightly shorter, but I still think we're around the hour mark. But I hope you all enjoyed it. I want to say massive thank you to our guests for joining us here today. So we had Vio, who's co-boss of the Royal family, who helped us out making the episode as well. So thank you. We had Cmurder, who's boss of the Gambino family. We had Boggy, boss of the company, and Cliffy from Resistance. And you were joined by Flame, Cybae, and Riot as usual. So thank you very much, everybody, and happy bootlegging.
Happy bootlegging.